for quorum.
Mayor Byrne, Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee Schwartz.
Here.
Trustee Schultz.
Here.
Trustee Marquardt.
Here.
Trustee Cook.
Here.
Trustee Hebda.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
Mr.
Is there a
Clerk.
motion?
Mr. Clerk, I would like to nominate Trustee Cook as President Pro Tem until such time as the village president arrives on the scene.
Second.
Motion.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Marquardt.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Motion passes, and this is called for a special executive session, and there's personnel and threatened litigation and threatened litigation. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Motion so made.
Second.
Okay, motion a second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Marquardt.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye. Okay, so we're going to go to executive session. We'll be back out to conduct this.
Right.
To reconvene the board.
So made. Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Marquardt.
Aye.
Okay, we're reconvened. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there any citizens that wish to address the board tonight on anything other than what's going to be on committee of the whole? If it's on committee of the whole, then you can speak to it at that time. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Proclamation, Andrew M. Mosko, in appreciation of his dedicated service to the Vernon Hills Board of Fire and Police Commission. You want to step forward, Andy?
Andy?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, this is the board. And you're only police, you're not fire, just for the record, you know. All right. Whereas Andy M. Mosko was appointed to the Vernon Hills Board of Fire and Police Commission in May of 1997, when he was a young man.
When I had hair.
In April 2006, the commission appointed Andy as their chairman. And as a member and chairman, Andy was directly responsible for the hiring of 27 police officers, roughly 65% of the current force. Andy was responsible for promotion of virtually every member of the current command staff and 4 additional supervisors that have since retired. Andy will be remembered for his organizational skills and spreadsheets and charts that made recruitment and establishment of eligibility lists seem effortless. The Board of Fire and Police Commission will miss Andy's leadership, sense of humor, and energy. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Roger L. Byrne, and the Board of Trustees who hereby express our sincerest appreciation to Andrew M. Mosko for his years of dedicated service on the Vernon Hills Board of Fire and Police Commission. Further, the Village Board wishes Andy and his family well in their future endeavors in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, dated this 5th day of March, 2013. Andy, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You could say whatever you want, Andy.
Well, thank you very much for the wonderful proclamation, but I have to tell you, it was my deep honor to have the privilege of being able to serve the village these last 16 years. And I have to say, I've done it with an individual, Larry Lazerne, we came on the board at the same time. And it's been a great adventure, but a real privilege. And I'm so pleased to leave the village with a police force that's quality and a true talent. And actually, almost everybody is promotable still as the future generation of the leadership of the department. So thank you for entrusting me with the privilege of being able to serve the village and to do it with a group of individuals I truly enjoy working with.
Well,
Thank you so much.
and you're a non-domer, right?
Pardon me?
You're not a domer.
No. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But-
Larry's,
But you know, I do have to say, I have gotten to know the police on a variety of different levels. You know, not only hiring, they've also come to visit a few times. So I appreciate everything the force has done for us, and I look forward to coming back to the village from time to time and saying hello and seeing some of the officers. But again, thank you all, you know, Mr. President, trustees, thank you for the faith you put in me and placing me in this position.
well, Andy, thank you for your professionalism and your expertise.
Before you walk,
And, you know, our, I think, complete trust in not only your decision-making, but your other, you know, commission members, so.
before you walk away, though, we as a board and as a village are so lucky to have residents like you and Sally who commit themselves to our village. As a village, we're very fortunate to have residents like you, and we thank you so much. We're going to miss you very much, but we wish you the best in Wisconsin. Is that where you're going?
Wisconsin, that's right. More snow.
Yeah.
More snow.
And
There you
colder
go.
temperatures.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Please don't be a stranger and come back.
All
and
right,
visit.
hold on a second.
All right.
Chief Fleshauer.
Thank you. First, on behalf of the police department, I think I need to apologize. I think the entire shift and everyone was supposed to be here tonight.
Yeah.
But under the conditions, as I was explaining to Andy, I was sitting in roll call, and one by one, the cars were shooting out of the station to the point where 5 to 6, I was the only one sitting there. But on behalf of the police department as well, if they were here, there's probably no one who's going to miss Andy more than me. His advice, wisdom, experience, and counsel over the years has helped immensely as we've put together the rules and regulations of the Police and Fire Commission, hired countless officers. Andy's been here since as long as I've been here now, 16 years. And that's incredible, the amount of time, energy, and effort that they've put in. Every time we run a testing process, it's 40 to 60 hours of interviews alone, not including the actual testing date. And I know that Andy is just one member of the commission, and I certainly owe thanks to the other members of the commission as well, but they're not leaving tonight. Andy is, and I am truly going to miss him. And like I said, all the experience, wisdom, and counsel that he's provided over the years, and his insight in helping us to hire the best qualified candidates. So, thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Sorry to see you go.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
And you cannot become a Packers fan.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. We're going to go home and dig ourselves out now.
Okay. Chief Fleshauer, St. Baldrick's event.
I'm up
March-
again.
Huh?
Again, this is just
Yeah.
this is just a reminder. It's getting closer for at least 3 of you.
You don't have to remind me.
Yeah, well,
The annual St. Baldrick's Foundation Head Shaving Event is this Saturday, March 9th at 12 o'clock in Westfield Hawthorne Mall, right outside the Gap. And as has been in the paper, on the website, it's advertised everywhere, the mayor, trustees Cook and Marquardt are also having their head shaved.
yeah.
We've raised quite a bit of money so far that's been pledged. We hope that, in the last few days or on the day of the event, that we'll raise a whole lot more. And I'd like to thank you, the 3 of you, for participating in the event. And I look forward to being there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad you look forward to being there, because
Yeah, that's honestly it.
I'm starting to lose sleep over it. It's,
Well,
Imagine how Sharon feels.
Yes,
You know,
you're absolutely right.
yeah, I mean, the true reason for doing this is to raise funds for children that have cancer. And I have another ulterior motive, though. Once my head's shaved, I want to see where I got hit a couple of times by the Christian Brothers of Ireland down at St. Lawrence High School, because I know they drew blood a couple of times, so. Just want to see if I got little dents in there somewhere, you know? Okay. All right, next is the omnibus vote agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through F?
So made.
Second.
Is there a motion and a second? Any comments or questions? If not, roll call.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Mayor Byrne.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. Approval of Kemper voucher list of bills dated March 5th, 2013 in the amount of $1,497.81. Is there a motion to approve?
So, second?
Motion is second. Comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Abstain.
And for the record,
Mayor.
I'd vote aye. Motion carries. Approval of village board minutes of February 19th, 2013.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, new business or communication to come before the board? Anybody? Okay. Now, can we adjourn the board now, or do we have to come back after closed session?
No, you can adjourn the board now, and then after the committee of the whole, you can go into closed session,
Okay,
from a recessed closed session.
all right. Is there a motion to adjourn the village board meeting and go into committee of the whole?
So made.
Second?
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting to order. First item is approval of committee of the whole minutes of February 19th, 2013.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Motion is second. Comments, questions, corrections, deletions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Motion carries. Okay, obviously the only item, but it's a big one, budget for 2013, 2014, for the village of Vernon Hills. First item is budget overview.
Mayor, let me start out, and I'll try to be brief, just to hit a few points in the letter Larry and I sent to you. First of all, we sent you previously some purchases that we advanced into the current fiscal year that we anticipated for next year. So that list you've received previously, and just to note that. And needless to say, but I'll say it, the importance of reserves. I mentioned that you had the opportunity to finance the Y, the purchase by the Park District of the former Y facility, because we had the reserves that we have. Another thing for this coming budget year is we're going to restore some of the capital costs. The Village of Vernon Hills, along with other municipalities, deferred both capital needs, the infrastructure, as well as capital equipment. And this year we're starting again to do some of that replacement fund reserves, or fund some of that reserve. Dave previously, along with the staff, went through our multi-year capital projects, and we have some of those in this current year's budget, and Dave will talk about those at our next budget meeting. The chief will talk about the dispatch function that, as you know, we've We're in the midst of potentially taking on a couple more municipalities in the dispatch function, and our transitions have worked very well. Management training, we're taking a look at doing some management training over the next year. Again, some training, not essential, but some training has been deferred over the last several years. Finally, one of the most important things, retail recruitment. We will continue our efforts along with you, working with you. And of course, one of our big subjects coming up in the next several months will be Westfield and their requested incentives. So with that in mind, Larry, if you want to talk the numbers.
Okay, and before I move into numbers, let me just do a little accounting review that basically the general fund is used for unrestricted purposes, and then when we have restricted purposes, we either restrict funds within the general fund, or if it's more major, we create a separate fund. And the point of that little segue is to say that, in my opinion, the most important measure of a budget is the unrestricted general fund, because the general fund supports everything that isn't supported by a restricted revenue, plus it backstops everything that is supported by a restricted revenue. So I'm going to kind of start smaller and get bigger. The unrestricted general fund balance has about a $22,000 surplus in this budget, so it is in the black. When you take into account the restricted funds, it's a $129,000 deficit, but about $164,000 of funds have been restricted for metro purposes and can be used for that purpose only, are being used this year in addition to ongoing metro revenues to pay for the blacktopping of the parking lot, the resurfacing of the parking lot. And finally, if we look at the overall budget, it is running, I misplaced my number.
286,000?
Yeah, $286,000 surplus. But the major piece of that really is the TIF fund, which is running a $436,000 surplus. And that, the reason it is running a surplus is we really have had the substantial growth in TIF revenues, and we are not yet facing the growth in principal repayment. We're making our first principal repayment in the TIF fund this year, but the TIF principal retirement is going to escalate as the years go forward. The motor fuel tax and the replacement fund, they're both running surpluses. So overall, we're looking at a situation that, you know, for all our funds, we're improving the situation in this budget. Our overall budget is up about 12.2%. I'm sorry, up about 9.6. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm off to a bad start, but I'll get better. And our operations budget is about $19.9 million. Our revenue is increased by about $2.4 million. Some of that is real. We have $937,000 more in dispatch fees due to what we're providing for our customers. Last year at this time, we really had done very little in the budget to budget for the new consolidation of the dispatch. So our original budget just had a $100,000 plug figure, and that was net revenues from consolidated dispatch. This year, we've developed a dispatch fund separate from the general fund. It's by definition a balanced fund because we take all the revenues we get from our customers as well as the revenues we get from 911, and we look at all our expenses, and what's left over the general fund makes up the difference. So by definition, it is a balanced fund. But I'm sorry. So we do have $937,000 of new real revenues from dispatch service fees, $270,000 from new TIF revenues, but we also have an issue of kind of a paper revenue gain, which is $902,000 of expenditures by the general fund that will now go into the dispatch fund. So that's kind of a creation of our new fund structure. Within the general fund, our anticipated expenditures are $19.5 million, up about 1.3%. I'm sorry, that's our, oh boy, I told you I'd get better, but I haven't yet. I don't know if I should tell you when that'll happen, but eventually it'll happen. Let me see. So our revenues are $9.5 million, up 1.3%. That's very little, but remember last year we kind of had a $100,000 plug figure that we've taken out of this whole equation. That was $100,000 for the dispatch. But in general, it is true that our revenues are not growing that rapidly. The sales tax, we're looking at a 1.5% increase over the last 12 months. And we've seen this pattern where the sales tax came out of the 2009 trough very rapidly, and now we've really seen things plateau. So we're not at the point where we can confidently predict that we're going to see strong growth in the sales tax. Probably one of the brightest things we're seeing is the Illinois Municipal League is projecting about 9.7% growth in the income tax. There have been so many factors in the income tax that have made it so hard to predict. The change in the formula, the collection of use tax, and I think the IML is a lot more optimistic.
What is it per capita, per person?
Per capita, it is about IML is predicting $88 for the current fiscal year, and I'm using that
just for personal income tax.
That's just for the personal income tax.
And what for the motor fuel?
Motor fuel tax is $24, and the use tax is $15. So total, it's about $127.
Okay.
And
the use tax is derived from what?
The use tax is derived from sales out of state, where they pay sales tax. It's collected by the state and then distributed based on the population of the municipality.
You know, along those lines, is there any, and this is just well, it would generate revenue for us, but is there still a moratorium on internet sales that's, is still controlled by the Congress?
Yes.
Is there any discussion of that?
I can speak to that.
That it may change?
Actually, Senator Durbin, our representative, is the sponsor of the Marketplace Act,
Right.
which is a bill that I had some concerns with because I was afraid it might upset the balance with regard to originated versus destination, but I've been assured by their office that it will not upset the balance, that basically they are just looking to collect the internet sales tax on a federal basis and then redistribute it just like the state does with the use tax and the motor fuel.
Which would be huge.
It would be nice. I mean, it still has to get collected and distributed across 300 million plus citizens, and you keep breaking it down, and it gets smaller and smaller. But still.
The press that's sitting here is that, that it's been like, kind of off the table at the federal level for 10 years. Maybe more than that, I'm not sure.
The biggest issue right now is it's not front and center because of all the other financial issues that are stalled in Congress.
And what trustee Schultz referenced was, you know, the straight sales tax, you know, I guess would be, you know, conundrum that we, you know, was being proposed in this state that involved, you know, if a bulk purchase, something big enough to have to be delivered by a motor carrier to your house in Long Grove, the tax that was generated on that would not come to Vernon Hills, but it would go to Long Grove or wherever you lived. And
Based on the rules established by the Sales Tax Consortium, which Illinois does not belong to. but
right,
35 other states
which kind
do.
of rolled in from the federal was the guidelines, and that was something we, you know, took a
But-
very strong position on with about 7 or 8 other communities. But
But the Marketplace Act does not utilize that
Good.
set of calculations. It's strictly,
yeah,
they're going to charge Amazon for every sale that Amazon makes, collect it and distribute it on a per capita basis.
right. It'd be interesting.
It would be nice.
Well, there would also have to be state sales tax there, even on top of the federal. I mean, there would have to be, because
Well,
there's tax right
no,
now we're not collecting.
No,
you
they,
know?
basically, they're looking to collect it on behalf of the states,
Oh, okay.
so to speak.
All right.
And they were still looking at whether or not it's a, you know, flat rate or whatever, so.
Okay. All right, Larry, you got the floor still.
Okay, so income taxes is one of the really bright spots. Licenses and permits up by 114,000, fines up by 77,000, telecommunications tax up by 68,000. Probably the darkest spot is I'm projecting that investment income will drop 79,000. We continue to lose our higher yielding securities, and rates just do not seem to be coming up. I'm still optimistic that sometime during the year rates will pick up, but I think I've said that every year the last 4 or so.
And it's not that we're cashing them in on our behalf, it's just that they're coming to maturity.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they're forced to be
Right,
reinvested.
exactly. And then you have really no good reinvestment opportunity.
Because we're limited
Right.
statutorily by
Right,
what we
right,
can invest in.
Right, and within the universe of what we can invest in, the yields are very, very limited.
So even though certain foreign countries in the southern hemisphere are offering 18.5%, we as a municipality can't invest there.
No.
I heard a good one about Brazil. I'm like going, you gotta be kidding me. Anyway, Larry's right, we have to be very, very conservative.
Well, I guess what they say, the most important principle is the return of principle, so that's,
Yeah, I guess. Or I guess it's to keep your principle. All right.
This year, we lose the 55,000 that we were getting from Glacier, which is in some ways good news that got completely paid back, and 30,000 down in electric utility tax, and that is also good news for our residents because segregation has resulted in savings in our electric. As far as the expenditure side of things, we're up about 1.5%. The operating budget is up 1.4%, but there's no cost of living adjustment built into this budget. Debt service is down about 31.5%. The major reason is a $500,000 a year annual payment on the 2002 VHAC bond was finalized will be finalized in the next few weeks, and that we will no longer have to make debt service on that. Finally, our capital budget is up 347%. It's at 856,000 compared to last year's level of about 191,000. So about a $660,000 increase. And then, as I mentioned, I talked about the TIF, the replacement fund, and the motor fuel tax fund. Probably the most impressive thing about this budget is the decrease in the police budget, which there are many, and the next budget on the list is marked, and I apologize for just giving a little introduction, if you don't mind. Okay.
Good.
There are many ways to slice how the dispatch function has worked, but one of the measurements is what did the police budget cost the general fund this year versus last year? Now, obviously, expenses as a whole are up between dispatch and police because we're serving more customers, and so there's a lot going in and going out. But in my mind, that was the measure I was looking for, and that's all I have to say. Other than on the agenda, the next thing is Mark's budgets.
I'm sorry,
unless there are any questions. Other than why did I get so much wrong in the first 5 minutes?
Ready to move ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. The proposed police department budget, once again, has been developed in conformance with the village's mission to deliver municipal services in a responsive, professional, and efficient manner. This budget also reflects the Vernon Hills Police Department mission to promote, preserve, and deliver a feeling of safety and security and quality service to all the members of our community. The police department's proposed budget again this year contains a mix of currently funded items and a very brief list of new items for your consideration. And Trustee Williams, I'm proud to say that this is probably the most fluff-free budget that we've ever presented. Now, I'm not saying that we ever had fluff in the previous ones, but if there was a little, there's a lot less in this year's budget than there was in previous years.
That's quite a concession.
That's as much as I'll go.
Okay.
The total budget request for this year is $9,108,876, which is actually a 1% decrease over last year's budget of $9,195,630. And despite the significant reduction, the police department's budget probably merits a little more discussion this year than in previous years. Personnel expenses are again projected to increase by about 3% in this year as compared to last year. And the majority of this increase is due in part to the hiring of the 3 new sworn officers that took place this past January that replaced the 3 officers that retired at the beginning of 2012. The balance of this increase is due to the increase in health insurance benefits, FICA, Medicare, pension, et cetera, all the other personnel expenses. But the greatest decrease in the police department budget this year is in our new equipment budget. The requested amount represents a 42% reduction from last year's budget. But again, this is kind of misleading, and this is why I wanted to spend a little more time explaining it to you. As I mentioned before, there were 3 full-time officers that retired in 2012, 2 in May and 1 in August. Because these positions were not filled until January of 2013, it resulted in a significant surplus in our personnel accounts in the police department budget. When we were in the process of preparing the 2014 budget village-wide, it was decided to use some of these surplus funds to purchase items that would have been otherwise included in the next year's budget, which would have made it more difficult to balance the proposed budget this year village-wide than it would have to use those funds to purchase the necessary equipment a little bit early. So by doing that, we actually reduced the budget request in 2014 by, like I said, 42% in our equipment account. You know, some of the things we purchased was a new vehicle that would have been budgeted for next year, computer accessories, some firearms equipment. Most of it was all hard equipment that would have been budgeted for this coming year. But I wanted to make it absolutely clear that the police department is not postponing the purchase of any important equipment, nor are we postponing the purchase of any necessary safety equipment, but that equipment was purchased early as opposed to waiting till later. So actually, we're a little better off than we would have if we'd included it in the budget process for this year. I just thought it was important to mention that. This current year's budget also has a number of alternative revenue sources other than the general funds, including the E911 fund, grant revenues, DUI enforcement fund, the Park District contribution, administrative towing fees, traffic enforcement fines, the school resource officer program, drug forfeiture funds, and there's probably one or two others that I missed. But combined, these sources produce over $900,000 in revenue to the village. I don't know if you have any questions on the specifics of the police department budget, but if you do, I can answer those now. I'm sorry, I don't mean to stare at you, Trustee Williams.
Are you asking me to ask questions?
No, I'm not.
I do like your philosophy on use it or lose it and from last year's budget, and it was a smart move. I appreciate that.
I give the credit to Larry.
Very
He's the smart man.
I'll have to second that. I agree with you there. He knows how to handle our funds, that's for sure.
Well,
He's done a very good job of it.
I tried to disprove that during the presentation.
And I'm sure that the board will agree with me. It was probably Larry that was pushing you into forming the separate budget or sub-budget for the communications center. So that was probably a very good move on everybody's part there.
I think everybody was really pushing for that approach, I think.
Oh, not just like our wonderful manager. I'm sure his finger was in the middle of it all also.
That was actually a joint process because Larry saw what was coming down the road, and it made more sense to try to figure out what we were spending now as opposed to what we're proposing to spend next year to see the effects of bringing on new partners into the communications center. And we'll talk about that in just a minute.
I did not have any detailed questions to ask you. I did go over the budget, not line by line, but I did go over it. And I'm sure everybody else did the same thing. So I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time on detail. As far as I'm concerned, I'll make a motion to approve the police budget as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further comments or questions?
One quick question. With regard to the Fire and Police Commission budget, I know you reduced it down rather significantly, although it's not a big dollar line item. I guess my question really is, do we still have a valid list for candidate officers should, in fact, we have more retirements or?
Right, I was going to cover that under the Fire and Police Commission budget, a couple down, but yes, we have a current promotional list, and we have a current entry list for the officers. And the reason that we cut the budget down to what it is because in all actuality, if an officer were to resign or retire, and we did not have an actual list, the lag time between the officer leaving and rehiring is probably about 3 to 6 months.
Right.
And the thought process was we could use the money that wasn't being spent for the officers' salaries. We could reapportion that back into the budget of the Fire and Police Commission's account for the purposes of conducting either the basic recruit test or a promotional exam. So it's kind of like, again, why put separate money aside? Because if we need it, it's going to be somewhere else already.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. We do roll call yet on that?
No.
We're ready for it.
Roll call on the budget.
Trustee
Got a
Cook.
motion and a second.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Mayor Byrne.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mayor, before Dave starts, just one editorial comment. I want to make it real clear to everyone that list of items that Mark raised and I did raised before, those are all items not on some wish list or things we added. We did that because we didn't want to put them in this next year's budget, but they were definitely ones we would have come to you and discussed with you. So that it isn't like somebody's dream for the last 5 years, that kind of list. It was real things that we were going to put in the 13, 14 budget.
Not a pie
So
in the
just to
sky, it was
emphasize,
something that was
not
needed.
fluff.
Right. No.
So I thought, no, you're correct, but I thought Larry put the list together that went out with the transmittal pack.
Right, that's what I
Okay,
was referring
okay.
to.
Mark
yeah.
has become very efficient in doing away with fluff when it hits me.
Absolutely. I'm virtually
Before it hits
fluffless.
me, I'll put it that way.
I'm fluffless.
Thank you. You're fluff-free.
The other thing I was going to mention is the dispatch fund, which is the next budget item that's up. And this is probably the other area that requires a little more explanation than normal. As Larry already alluded to, when we were preparing the 2014 budget, the communications center has always come under the police department's budget. And with the advent of Libertyville coming on board as a dispatch customer / partner of ours, we decided the best way to look at the funds for this was to open its own account, which is what we just discussed a minute ago. But that also gave us the ability to track our expenses and project future expenses and costs. Now, when I wrote my letter of transmittal, we were talking about the possibility of adding a couple additional partners. Since the letter was written at the end of middle of February, we have commitments on the part of Lincolnshire and Riverwoods that they are going to move forward with us and enter into an intergovernmental agreement. And we are in the process. We actually have the first and second drafts of the intergovernmental agreement already done. Once that's done, it'll be submitted to the board for your approval and discussion of fees, et cetera. But as it stands right now, by adding both of those two new partners in, our expenses, if you look at the budget for the communications center last year, as opposed to what we're proposing this year, it's a 32% increase over what we spent last year. The majority of that is for new personnel that's going to be required to be added to compensate for the new partners. However, when you add the revenue sources, we're talking about just under $1 million in revenue just for the communications center. The actual village cost to the budget will actually decrease by 26%. So you're talking a huge swing there of almost, you know, if you're talking percentage points, it's like 50%. But so the total budget, the proposed budget with the new partners added is $2,324,495. And like I said, that takes into account almost $1 million in new revenue, which will actually reduce the village's costs from what we put in last year by about 26%. We're moving ahead. Now, does that require a separate motion for the dispatch?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second. Comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Mayor Byrne.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next budget is the DUI subfund, and if you recall, the DUI subfund is made up primarily of Senate Bill 740, which allows judges to impose a $100 fine for every DUI conviction that takes place in court, and it goes back to the originating or arresting agency. It's difficult. We never budget money out of this. This is money. This isn't a budget or a line item where money only goes into. If at some point we need the money to do, because it has to be used for specific purposes, we always come to the board in the form of a resolution later explaining why we want to spend the money and ask to have that money be transferred out and spent. So there's like a zero balance here.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Trustee Cook.
You said it's a zero.
I think it shows the
Keep showing a
balance.
Shows the
-13.
minus.
It shows the balance in here that we have, but I don't think it shows any expenditures out of it. Am I
So
wrong?
The balance is a negative in that fund.
It's not really a negative.
Well, that's what
It's
I,
showing a negative.
I know, but
Yeah.
it shows it, but it's.
I just
wrong.
wanted to question where, because in the overview, it talked
oh,
about it as being
okay.
zero in that.
I'm sorry, but what the negative represents is, basically in this budget system, revenues are negative and expenditures are positive. So
Right.
when it shows a negative 18,000, it's really showing a net increase in restricted revenues of $18,000.
I know, when I first started looking
So
at
that's
the-
what we're
the whole
projecting,
budget,
that we're going to contribute, that'll be put back into that account.
Right.
Fund.
Accounting never made sense to me. I couldn't get that, where a
Right.
positive was a negative and a negative was a positive.
accounting.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah.
Don't feel bad.
Just wanted to check.
That's why I write radar tickets.
Do we need a motion on this one too, right? No.
Already,
We had,
Oh, we
all we
already,
need is roll call.
roll call.
Yeah,
just a
there's a
roll.
motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Mayor Byrne?
Aye, motion carried.
The DUI, the Drug Forfeiture Fund works exactly the same way. There's no way that we can possibly calculate how much money will go in here. This is based on drug seizure money, vehicles that are seized, that are auctioned. So again, we do not budget to spend any money out of here. The only money that goes in there is money that's awarded to us by the court or the state police. So again, we don't budget to spend any money out. If it has to be used for specific purposes. If one of those purposes arise and we need to tap that fund, we'll again come back to the board with a memo and a resolution requesting your approval with an explanation.
What are the purposes, again?
Drug enforcement and education. That's it. It's very limited.
I think in the past you've used this kind of for DARE and stuff like that, haven't you?
We did use this to help offset DARE. For example, if we wanted to do another like the heroin symposium,
That you did at the high school.
Right.
we'd have some money to do that, to help fund it and partner up with someone else to do that.
Right.
And that's where the funds would come from.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. No further comments or questions. Roll call.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Mayor Byrne?
Aye, motion carries.
The last one on, under my agenda is the Fire and Police Commission budget, and I think we explained that already. I believe there's only like a $500 dollar amount in there, which is a minimal for secretarial services or administrative assistant services. If at some point we need to hire additional officers and we do not have a standing eligibility list, as I mentioned, there's always at least 6 months lag time between the time the officer leaves and is actually hired. We would just transfer the funds from the salaries account into the Fire and Police Commission account for the purpose of conducting the test.
Okay,
Motion to approve?
Second.
motion is second. Any comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Mayor Byrne?
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Okay,
Yeah,
Chief.
very nice.
All right. Community development budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. The proposed budget for the Community Development Department, as you know, is made up of administration, GIS, and the building division. The budget year is projected to be $870,539, or represent an increase of 2.4% over the previous year's level. The primary areas of increases include the fringe benefits with regards to our employees, contractual services being up 16.8%, and then commodities remaining unchanged. We're also seeing equipment within the department, the equipment request for this coming year being down 1.4%. Basically, with regards to administration, there is some increases in the proposed training budgets within the division, primarily for me, attending a couple of different conferences and actually applying those costs this year versus last year, where in one instance I had to rely on another community to house me. And my wife was very much helpful with that. So. The other items with regards to the contractual services, we're looking to purchase some additional software for the GIS coordinator, Primarily, it's some programs that allow for additional measurements and interaction with other programs for both using internally and also with some of our customers. We do contractual services with Countryside Fire and also with the Lincolnshire Riverwoods Fire to provide GIS services to them. They do reimburse us for those costs. With regards to the building division, again, we're seeing a 1.3% increase in the budget this year. I would note that this year we are proposing, although it's not shown in our budget, we are proposing the acquisition of 2 inspector vehicles. The current vehicles are in excess of 10+ years old now, and are in excess of each of 50+ thousand miles, and are beginning to show wear and tear, significant wear and tear actually on those vehicles. Those are shown in the vehicle replacement program for this year. So I guess with that I can answer any questions that you may have, or Mike and myself can answer questions with regards to the Community Development Department.
Are there any comments or questions from the board?
I don't have any. Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no comments or questions, roll call, please.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Byrne?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Let me note, Dave has requested that we go directly to item M, the Public Works budget.
N
N is in,
With your approval?
or M? M.
N is in Nancy.
M is a man.
Thank you. I wanted to present the Public Works budget. Anything greater or less than a $500 change is outlined in your packet, but rather than going through each and every one of those, knowing that it's a $4.4 million budget, I wanted to go over a brief overview. The overall budget increase is 2.26%. What that amounts to is $97,699 increase out of a $4,418,715 budget. So a little under 100,000. $67,557 is due to we are fully funding the vehicle replacement fund. Last year was 55%, so that amounts to roughly $68,000. So the difference between our budget increase and that $68,000 really is $30,000 that our budget is actually increasing. An overview, salary and wages decreased by $37,542. Fringes have increased by $33,349. So in terms of salaries and wages and fringes, essentially there's a small decrease, $4,000. Really the increase is more attributable to contractual services. Generally 1.5% to 3% increases will occur to our multi-year and annual contracts. Some of those we already know because we have multi-year contracts. Some of them are anticipated increases after talking with various contractors. For instance, snow removal, James Martin and Associates, they perform snow removal on 104 different cul-de-sacs in town. We have a multi-year contract. It'll go through the end of next year, next winter, and that's 1.5%. Roughly the HOA reimbursements about 2%. Mowing contracts will increase 2% for the specialty ones, 2% for the overall just mowing of lawns. Clark mosquitoes, we're anticipating a 3% increase, amounts to about $1,720 for that. Fuel, we are going out for a fuel contract for 3 years. We're about putting the bid packet together. We'll be back to the board sometime in April. We don't know where fuel prices are going. We did increase, add some money into the budget just in anticipation.
Who do we use now?
There, you know that. It's, I don't have it at the tip of my tongue. We go out for a general bid on that, and it's based on the low bidder, and whatever the rates are by the bid, it's a certain percentage over that baseline. Remember? I see their trucks going by, I can't remember the name. Larry will help us in a second with that. In terms of janitorial, Alpha performs most of the building maintenance for janitorial services. Above the Limits has helped with the lawyer area over at the communications center. We no longer have that contract because we now do not have that tenant within the communications center. So we don't have a need for that contract. We'll do that in-house until we get a new tenant in that building. One other contractual services I wanted to note for the board is we are recommending that we add one more week of fall street sweeping. So that's another $5,000. That'll bring it up to $25,000 of street sweeping, or a total of 5 weeks of it. Our sweeper that we have in-house sweeps the street. It does not vacuum very well. The contractor has something that vacuums the actual street and picks up the leaves, 2 different pieces of equipment. The equipment's $158,000 for a new one, so that's why we contract that out, one of the reasons.
Where are we at with the life cycle of the existing?
The existing one is on its last legs. This current year budget, we added curtains for it, the hopper repairs, etc. We have all those parts for the existing one right now to allow it to extend its life. We're anticipating maybe that gets us another 3 years or so, but that is something coming down the pike towards us. Good question.
Trustee Cook, you want to?
Yeah, I just had a question. There are a couple of increases you had that having to do with buildings, ground, and maintenance, and that was related to the Emerald Ash Borer, and I was just wondering, do you have a ballpark what that's costing us?
I do.
I mean, just a...
I absolutely do. Looking at Emerald Ash Borer, you know, the largest expense that we're experiencing other than staff time, we remove the trees in-house. We're removing 550 ash trees this year. In terms of the tree planting, typically we would plant $22,000 worth of trees. We're looking at $100,000 for this year. One of the things that the chief talked about before, advanced purchasing, we're advanced purchasing trees. I believe it's $70,000 of trees up front out of this current budget year that we're able to save. So yes, it's going to increase just on trees alone, $22,000 up to $100,000 this year total value. We're looking at we have to plant roughly 450 to 500 trees. I give all the credit to my staff in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. We are setting a high bar. We're removing twice as many trees to 3 times as many trees as we did in previous years, and we're trying to plant twice as many trees too. They're going to be planting trees through the whole month of May, all 4 weeks, and then probably 2 or more weeks into June also, 6 weeks of planting. That is one of the reasons I switched last year with the board's approval, a little reorganization. We moved grounds into streets so that forestry could just deal basically with the infestation of emerald ash borer. So they're just focused on trimming trees, removing trees, planting trees.
Are we still talking like the grand total 3,600 trees?
We have 3,600 ash trees. We are probably at the end of this year into that by about 600 trees. So if you figure we can tackle 500 in a year, we got 6 more years of dealing with this.
Sure.
How about the trees, though, that were planted last year in reference to the drought? Do you think those new trees will survive, or will we have some of those to have to replace?
We tried to keep up by putting water in bags. That helps somewhat. I'm as much worried about last year's drought for the non-ash tree replacements, the other trees, the maples, et cetera, that have been, you know, on our
Trust to
streetscape
begin
for a
with,
long
yeah.
time. I think we're going to have a lot of impacts to those trees also, in addition to emerald ash borer. To answer your question further,
And it goes without saying, if there's one in your parkway, we strongly suggest you can water it,
Right.
you know?
absolutely.
Just like you mow the parkway, you know? As in, I mow my parkway.
Yes,
As in, I water the tree, you know?
absolutely.
And you cut the
absolutely,
grass.
And I cut the grass.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I rake the leaves, you know? You know what I mean?
We appreciate everyone's help. We're
Yeah.
putting something on the website. We're going to communicate
I
on
think
through
we
Channel
should,
4.
because I think
In terms of watering trees, we will have water bags that residents can add. And one of the secrets is you can overwater a tree too and kill it. So we'll help with educating the residents as best as possible on that. But their help is definitely appreciated. Very good comment. We also will have some expenses as far as planting with more topsoil, more seed, the logs that are hauled away and chipped into mulch, those type of additive expenses. So, you know, we have to buy more water bags. It's $15 for a water bag. So to try to fully answer Trustee Cook's question, we're looking at the water bags. We're going to spend another $1,000 this year on it. It'll go up to $1,500. We're going to have emerald ash borer injections of trees, trying to save what trees that we still think that they stand a chance. So that's going to be $2,500 more of injections. So that'll bring it up to $10,000 for the budget. Log removals, another increase of $4,000 because we have so many trees. We're doing our best right now. Next year's budget, I'm anticipating we will be back to the board. We will very likely be talking about contracting out for some tree planting, because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to keep up with the volume year after year. We're going to do our best this year. I think we'll manage, but we'll go from there.
Trustee Schultz, you got another one?
Yeah, couple of things. Just, can I have an update on salt? Have we got enough room now to complete our purchase? I assume we do.
We absolutely do. Our contract is from 80 to 120% of our purchase. Typically, we budget for 2,000 tons. This year, we've budgeted for 1,600 tons. To answer your question, February has been a big salt month, and we're almost to that 80%, and our bins are, 2 of them are full. After this, we'll probably be close to needing to restock the 3rd one. So at the end of this storm, I'm anticipating we'll have to make another order, and that order will fill all 3 bins fully and will be right about 80% of our order that's needed. So 100% would be another $25,600 of salt to make 100%.
I'm just concerned that I don't want to pay a bill for storing salt someplace else. So we've got it. The other, and I guess it kind of goes to Manager Allison. What's the status of the prevailing wage bill? The last one I saw had a $25,000 exemption. Contracts under $25,000 would be exempted from the prevailing wage. If that goes through, that we should be all right. But if it doesn't go through, do we need to establish lack of a better term, a slush fund to ensure that we have sufficient dollars budgeted for any increases due to prevailing wage?
Well, my understanding is right now, I'll have to check. We were talking about a couple other bills, but that bill, I don't think was moving anywhere. Some aspects of it, as you mentioned, Trustee Schultz, would be an improvement for us. And then there's other aspects of it that broadens it and makes it worse. I believe last time I looked, there was a couple
many
bills.
competing amendments.
Right. Right. So whatever happens, unfortunately, it costs more. And I think I illustrated a couple of municipalities to you before where their costs increased over 100%.
Right.
because of prevailing wage. But I'll take a look at that. I'll see where that's at. But again, you know, to reduce our liability, that's probably going to be a tough one. It seemed like all of them were going in the other direction, including more what we would consider maintenance items as
Right.
part of prevailing wage.
That $25,000 exemption, that seemed to be somewhat helpful.
Right, if in fact that had any legs.
Right.
So we'll take a look at it. I'll check it out.
And if not, then we're looking at making sure contingency is strong enough to absorb. Okay, thank you.
What are we up to a ton now?
We are at $64 a ton, so that's moderated over our days of, you know, triple digits 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Which is good to hear, certainly.
okay.
Moving along, really wanted to hit two more.
Scrap one trivia, and maybe the press. Remember, you ran the numbers for me, and I think it was distributed to the board, and the average snowfall for before last year, I think it was, what, 4 years or 5 years? And what year was it we had the 78 inches? No. No.
I forget if it was 7 years
Yeah, it
ago
was
that
just in the, 2006
Yeah.
or 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, I
We had
forget.
78 inches.
Yeah.
And that was the year, I think we had our, it wasn't the year we had the blizzard, that was the year we got whacked.
Yeah.
$160 a ton on salt, when we paid through the state $40 a ton.
We're going all over the place trying to find it.
Hey, we might as well,
Let's go to
you know,
Indiana and
jump
pick
at
it up
400% in one fell swoop, you know? So anyway, this year's not bad.
Very, very good.
It's down $100.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Drastic improvement that we're glad to
it's
see.
a big deal, you know?
Yeah. Really just wanted to hit on a couple of key items for you, and then if the board had any questions. Building maintenance needs and vehicle maintenance. The police and public works buildings, we've done well in terms of tuck pointing the exterior of them. We're going to hit the entry monuments for this year, so all of our entry monuments will be tuck pointed and touched up. Arbor Theater roofs we tackled last year, so we're doing good there. We need to paint and stain them now that they're looking better. The fountains need some work, and we need to address irrigation cabinets. Village Hall, the siding around the Village Hall, we're looking at that does need staining once again. We're also going to hit the tower enclosure. The entrance to the Village Hall, wanted to talk to the board about that. Remember, we removed, for irrigation system, we removed the no-mow design here, and now it's a lawn. We don't have an irrigation system for it, so there is $15,000 in the budget to extend the irrigation. If the board has, we'll bring a picture back to the board, but the entrance, I've heard some comments that there's a need for some more color and addressing that. We'll show you something here, see if you like it or not. It's $5,000. If you want it, we'll do it. If not, that's okay. But trying to address some of the big the cottonwood trees, some of the other trees. Our flag, when it was positioned, the flags are growing into the trees. They're ripping. We're replacing them. So we need to do something, but we'll present more details later.
Anything you can do to make it prettier, I'd love it.
Okay, and it's a moderate
It needs
cost.
help
It's a
badly.
moderate cost.
Don't we still have the perennial tulips? Don't we still have the tulip bulbs out there?
We do have
But
perennials
that's
that
the
we
short-
use.
yeah,
It's a
that's-
Hang them from the basketball hoop at the top.
And very good. Racing along at the Public Works building, the lunchroom tile that was installed in 1995, we're looking to replace that. And then the storage bins, we want to have a architect take a look at our storage needs there. It's not a lot of money, but in terms of the storage needs is Originally, as part of the 95 expansion, there was a series of bins, and there was a forecast to have to put covers over them to keep the materials dry. We need dry materials in certain times of year. We have more needs for that. So this isn't going to be a big expense. We just want to have an architect look at it, figure out what the cost is, bring that back to the board. We're not looking to do this year. We just want to figure out the dollar amount. And then
Architect
for the
probably
following
costs
year,
more
maybe
than
we would do the
fixing it.
construction.
I said the architect will probably cost more than fixing it.
I think we may have an architect who's going to volunteer his services that I'm
Okay,
working on.
then let's go for that.
But I had to budget a dollar
Yeah.
amount, so. So that's really our buildings. Vehicle maintenance, our policy is to extend the lives of the vehicles. We're gonna follow up with that by sandblasting 3 dump bodies, 6 salt spreaders. We're gonna take the electrical division truck and, switch that over to a new chassis and, really extend the life. The parts all work, it's just a rusted body on it. So anyway, we'll do that. Public Works Open House is scheduled for this year, so slight increase because that's every other year. And then we talked about Emerald Ash Borer. We talked about the salt purchase. Really, one question that I'd like the board to consider is as we move forward for tree replacements, right now our policy is 2.5-inch caliper trees for replacement. As more and more municipalities are all faced with purchasing the same size trees, et cetera, the demand out in the field, there's going to be a scarcity in terms of supply. We may have extra costs. So the $100,000 ticket we have for tree replacement now may go up. There may not be as available. So whether or not we would consider maybe a 2-inch caliper instead of a 2.5-inch. This year, we're moving ahead with 2.5-inch, but we may have to look at that going into the future. We may have to look whether or not we can keep up with ordering, finding, installing 500 trees a year too. So just want to share that with the board. One really good news, additional good news for the board is because we did an advance purchase, there's something in the board packet that we don't need the sprayer spreader attachments. That's $8,000. So it's in the budget right now. I'll work with Larry to remove that $8,000 out of the budget. So any questions from the board, I'd entertain.
Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Comments or questions?
Is that less the $8,000, right?
That may be thrown into the tree budget.
Right.
Probably no.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Mayor Byrne.
Aye. Motion carries.
And should we go to resident benefit?
Are you still have, Mayor, I was just going to ask, we have
You gotta
a
go into
considerable
closed
number
session,
of
right?
items, in closed session. So do you want to
We can go.
do that now, or
Yeah.
go ahead, Larry?
Oh, can we ask that there is one more, I guess, complicated issue in Dave's portfolio, which ties into the resident benefit budget. I thought it would be good if we could cover that tonight as well.
All right, yeah.
Which one is that?
Oh.
That's item O.
Oh?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Did you want me to do that?
Well, just to give an overview of the resident benefit, perhaps it's, given how things have evolved, it's a little anarchistic, but it's an anachronism, whatever the word is, a little bit of an anachronism, but it's a structure that makes sense. It's items that we do directly for the residents, and it includes grants, which remains the same as in prior years. It includes reverse communications, which remains the same as in prior years. And then the big item there is the VHAC. And we can get back to those 2 other items, but I think the VHAC maybe is worthy of some discussion from Dave. He's cut that back by by $16,262, but how he's done it is I think what he wants to discuss.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. In terms of the VHAC, really the major change is there is a, you know, we've worked with and talked with the youth programs in terms of infield maintenance. In those discussions, the village is looking to bring it to a higher level in terms of the maintenance of the site. What that affords us is we're out there more often fixing the infields, getting things going. While we're out there, we can also maintain trees, the pathways, etc. And I think it provides a better service out there. All of that is within saving more money at the VHAC and reducing, like Larry said, $16,000 in that budget line item. What that means is, in addition to Tom Bretman, who not only reviews development plans from a landscape standpoint and provides other services, he also oversees the VHAC for our village. We'd like to have 2 staff members that would help support him with this. Those 2 additional staffs can, they'll work off not just a normal Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30. They would also have a Saturday schedule, sometimes maybe a Sunday schedule, sometimes overtime past 3:30. They would help with the French market. So we have someone who needs to set it up, take it down. They can help with that also. I think in terms of just basic needs out there, we can have someone out there scheduled when there's tournaments that we can help support that too. And there still is a role for the youth programs too. We will at the beginning of the day work the fields, get them ready to go. Then they only need to really do some minor dragging periodically or filling in some holes next to first base or home, etc. But the line share is all prepped for them, that they don't really have to do the heavy labor. We can do that. It's certainly a burden, I know personally, on Mark Peterson and his staff, that, you know, he has a full-time job and he cares so much. He's out there doing additional work, and his staff is, and I think it's really important that we help support him on that. So we're here to do that. Some of the things is like storage lockers. I know they had storage lockers out there before. We think it's important that there is a storage solution out there. We don't have money immediately, and we're not ready to build a storage building out there, but we do need to store things. There's a small room but by the concession for storage that we can't pack enough stuff in. So it's expanding into the electrical area that we shouldn't have equipment there, and we keep, you know, pushing back and forth. Let's get this stuff out of there. So what we're proposing, similar to the metro station, is we purchased a storage box, and then we sandblasted, painted it. They look rather good. So we're proposing, and I know that the Cougar program are supportive of this, is we would buy 2 of them. We would put them on the easterly leg, which is between fields 1 and 4, so between the northeast and southeast fields where the batting cage used to be. Put 2 storage lockers there. One could be used by the programs themselves, the Cougars, and then the other would be for the maintenance and storage of our equipment and our needs. In the budget, we've included it. If it's the board's wishes, we can work with the Cougars, whether they would pay for it or not. Leave that open to the board's discretion on that. So that's those are some of the important things. We will also, while we have staff out there, instead of spending money to hire a contractor to redo the fields for, you know, $20,000 or so, our staff will do that in-house. We'll try to tackle 1 infield a year, keep up with it, complete renovation of it. We'll do that while we're out there. We're working with high school. They may tackle field 4, and there's an agreement that they're drafting with Bob and presenting that to the board, that should we allow them a priority use, which is typically okay with the Cougars too. They're out there earlier in the season, that they would help maintain it. They would pay for the restoration of that field. And if they're not prepared to do it and the board doesn't reach that agreement, we will do that in-house also. So more on that, but I guess we're committed to take care of the infields and the VHAC site at a higher level.
Okay. Anything else on that one?
No, sir.
That's a single line item and out of 3 line items there, so do we need to address the other 2 at this time before we can forward a motion
Yeah.
on this?
If we want to do the motion tonight, we probably should, and hopefully they're pretty straightforward. The grants are basically the grant program and the charity golf outing, and we include the same dollars that we had last year, which is 29,000. And the other item in there is the reverse communications, which is, we budgeted the same amount as last year, 15,800.
I'm fine with the reverse communication. I'm just curious if there's any interest to expand our reach with the grants.
I think there certainly should be, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're doing better financially, I mean, and there's a lot of needs.
Do you want us to send that list out?
Yeah.
And maybe update it, and usually we do that at the end of the budget process, so let me, yeah, I'll have Lynn update it.
Well, then, do we want a motion to approve the resident benefit subject to revision of the grants?
We can just wait. Yeah, we can just wait.
I'm good with that, too.
I don't see
All right, so-
the rest of the budget, but yeah.
Right, so what do we have, but we need to go into closed session to discuss.
Personnel and litigation.
Okay. Well, is there a motion to adjourn committee to hold to go into closed session, and we will not be coming out to discuss any other business tonight, or conduct any other business?
Question,
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, oh, sorry.
do we,
Trustee Schultz, go ahead.
we were talking about a tentative meeting
Yeah.
then for the 12th,
Or
right?
what do you think?
I guess my sense is we've covered a lot of the very complicated budgets. And if we can keep the third Tuesday, if we can keep that agenda relatively straightforward.
John's shaking his head, though. You've got a lot on that.
Oh, that's a good point.
I got Westfield stuff
So
coming.
that's a good point.
Yeah. We probably should meet next week.
I mean, I don't-
We're looking for West, I potentially have a conflict with the third Tuesday of the month. I've got a business client that I really need to be out of town for that week, I think.
I mean, the only thing I have for Westfield is I have a series of ordinances that will put in place the zoning entitlements
Yeah.
and potentially the term document. And so what I'm kind of doing is, to make it easier for you all, is I'm going to break it up into pieces. So for instance, if you like the theater, that's great. If you don't like it with alcohol, that's, we'll get a chance to do some different things and, kind of work through those. So it'll be just pretty straightforward in terms of the vote. And then potentially the term sheet with regards to the incentive agreement may be ready to go at that time. Westfield's kind of pressing on that one, and I'm not sure whether we'll get there or not on that one, so. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I don't mind. I mean, if we need to meet the 12th, then let's get the budget parts done for the 12th, so then that leaves us open
next week?
for the following week. Because we're,
Just
headed-
published, then we're gonna meet
right,
on the 12th.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, let's get it, yeah.
if I can be.
That was
well.
my question.
That'll give me 3 days to start growing hair back, so.
I would kind of like to see you guys.
Would you
Oh,
all
yeah,
just
well,
put a little
it'll be
powder on
special.
when you walk
Just
in, so it doesn't
so-
glow so
So,
much?
Mayor and
Probably
Trustee
give us the
Schultz,
ad.
just to show you the amazement, and really this is a credit to Joe McCoy at IML. He already answered my email on your question, Trustee Schultz.
Really?
So, like,
What is?
new
the-
technology is good. Well, it's not good, of
Okay.
course. The bill is HB, House Bill 2364. It's in the House Labor and Commerce Committee. We support the bill, IML, but it will likely be placed into a subcommittee or otherwise not make it out of committee.
Oh,
So,
It's dead.
so
anyway,
it's
that's the
DOA for
status.
this year,
It's
so
Probably.
we don't have to worry about it for budgeting purposes.
So are we going to do anything with this resident benefit? Are we going to make a motion to approve or wait?
No.
We'll wait. Okay.
Yeah, just-
We'll wait, okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn to go into closed session to discuss litigation
made.
and personnel.
Second it,
And, yeah.
just to make sure.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye.
Left before.
Motion carries. Okay.